Okay, so overfitting is a huge issue with neural networks, and we have to figure out a way of dealing with that. And one way is regularization, which we talked about earlier sometime when we were looking at the foundations, and also validation could be one approach, right? So both of those approaches come back now, and that can be applied to neural networks. This picture essentially is telling us, this left one, the overfitting that happened with the digits data, and on the right hand side, what we're doing is we are applying weight decay. If you remember, that was one of the techniques, one of the regularizers, and with some lambda equals 0.01. And this was like, when we looked at this technique, this was applied with just one perceptron, right? And now we have this like whole network of perceptrons. So how will we apply this regularization? And of course, it yields good results, as you can tell just by looking at this. So let's look at how this works in neural networks. We know that we were trying to minimize not E in my original perceptron, but I had this augmented error, and that had this like extra term that had my weight decay, which was nothing but W transpose W, right? Now, instead of like this W, we have these matrices of weights, right? If you remember, this is what we have, like W1, W2, and each of these is a matrix, which has like made our life a little bit difficult, but not quite, because how I can simply substitute for like one of these, which is, let me show you what I mean. My lambda over n stays the same, the regularization parameter. And let's say we sum up over all, like for every layer over all weights. And if they are like represented by L sub ij, where I is like the node starting from where the weight is starting from up to which node it ends, and which layer is it going into is my L. And instead of like this W transpose W, I can write WL for whatever layer ij squared, right? And now I'm interested in the gradient of the error, because of course I will be applying gradient descent. And so for like component wise, I can do the gradient of this augmented error with respect to my WLIJ, this one here, right? And here I can get the gradient of E in with respect to WIJL plus lambda n 2 times WIJL. Okay, and of course, like for the entire matrix, like I will have a similar sort of application, except that instead of the components, I have the entire matrix, and so I'll have the E augmented for my entire WL, right? And the same will apply here for EN WL plus 2 times lambda over n, this constant term, times my entire WL for layer L, the entire matrix. Okay, so in gradient descent, I'll have my update rule as always. And how will the update rule apply? Well, the update rule will be WL, update it by the original minus my learning parameter, which was like learning rate, essentially. E in this term on the right hand side, of course, L, right, minus 2 times lambda over n WL. All right. So, and where do we get this from? We get this from back propagation, if you remember. So that's that. And this here is the like is weight decay applied to a neural network. It's pretty straightforward, pretty intuitive, and we just saw how like well like this results in a better hypothesis as compared to the overfitting that was happening. You can look at the smooth sort of fit that's happening with the digits data, and we get similar results with other data sets as well. So it's a very useful technique that's used to combat overfitting. Now that's the first technique. We are also looking at another technique today, and that is known as early stopping. And let's also look at how this works. Again, early stopping is another way of like regularizing a neural network. And in fact, it can be used for any iterative algorithm. It's another form of regularization. So think about this, like I'll show you some examples. So let's say when we are trying to When we start training with the gradient descent algorithm, we begin with some weights like, let's say, W0, where 0 is my maybe my iteration. And then the idea is that in gradient descent, right, I'll take a step that will be my best step in terms of the set of weights that I'll go for. So let's say the set of best steps, the next step that I take, and this is like the set of weights that I look at is W1, right? And what it's telling me is that this entire sphere, or this entire sort of um, yeah, I would say like a cluster of all the weights that are there within that sphere is the best set of weights that I can like get. So it's an imaginary sphere that in some sense like my W1 is optimizing or picking the best hypotheses, which is why I picked it, right? Now what happens when I have picked it? I'll have another step, right? And in that another step, I'm going to, let's say, pick some W2, right? And then this lies like somewhere such that like because I've picked this W2 and then I don't know how to put this. So this is like the best now, right? Yeah, I mean, that's a better way of like thinking about it. So this is the next best that I could pick up, right, or get. And so this lies on, let's say, another like big circle or maybe bigger sphere, right? That looks something like this. Okay, my drawing skills are like really bad. And then again, I move to, let's say, some W3, and then there is another, it lies again on some circle. And I'm going to show you a better picture in a while. What I'm trying to like kind of say here is that every set of weights corresponds to a hypothesis set, right? So every set of weight is a hypothesis set or belongs to a hypothesis set. So let's say when we began here for W1, it was H1, and then here it was H2, and here it was H3, and so on, right? And effectively, like in these two steps of my gradient descent, I've gone from selecting like W2 in a bigger hypothesis set, right? From W0 to W1 to W2 and eventually to W3, which is a bigger hypothesis set. Why? Because like I'm looking at this entire set of weights now, right? This is my final hypothesis set. And like in two steps of my effectively in my like gradient descent, I have selected W2 in a bigger hypothesis set, H2, and next I've selected W3, which is like again the next best, and it beats like my W1 and W2. So my W3 is the best in this union hypothesis. This is what I'm trying to say, right? Which is why I reached here. And with each step of my gradient descent, of course, I'm getting better set of weights, but I'm also exploring bigger hypothesis sets. All right, so what does that mean? So in every step, what I'm doing is I have like H1, that is a subset of H2, which is a subset of H3, and so on. Like every iteration, this is what's happening. And maybe some M, I don't know how many iterations we'll go. And these are like, these will have their own VC dimensions, which will be somewhat like this, right? D1 less than D2 less than D3, and so on to dm. All right, so how does that impact our algorithm and what can we do about it? Well, because the VC dimension is increasing, of course, it's impacting something in my model, and that can help me pick the weights that are optimal in terms of my generalization. So let's look at that here. And so here is the gradient descent, and this is like a better picture. So we began with the hypothesis set H1, picked the best, that was W1, right? And then from W1, we moved to another hypothesis set, which was H2, but my effectively, there was an overlap between H1 and H2, so I got a bigger hypothesis set. And similarly, when I moved to W3, I effectively got even a bigger hypothesis set. And each of these are like subsets of one another as I'm moving in that region. So what is happening in terms of the error and the number of iterations in my gradient descent? Well, here is what is happening. So this is the iteration number, and of course my En is going down, which is why I'm like subsequently moving from one set of weights to another. So my En is definitely going down, but as always, as we just saw with the VC dimension increasing, I have this penalty term here, which is also increasing, right? And we know that E out is like effectively a sum of these two, and so we'll have a curve like this that has some optimal number of iterations, right? And so this is a relationship between like the number of iterations that is related to the training and the overall error. So there is an optimal number of iterations to train for. And because we know that there is an optimal number of iterations, it's telling us that we may stop the training early. We don't have to go all the way to my optimal W star. If you remember, this is what was happening like in the space of W's. Maybe we began with W0, and then this was my optimal point where I have to reach, and these are the contours of constant E in. And we were continuously moving through that, like taking one step at a time. And maybe, by, like when we were keeping track of the iterations, maybe this T star occurred somewhere here, right? And so because of the penalty that I'm paying in terms of like the complexity increasing and the VC dimension increasing, I may like stop at this W instead of going all the way to W star. So I'll call this WT star, right? So, excuse me, this is a form of regularization. And this is known as early stopping. All right. So here is early stopping on digits data, and the question arises, how do we pick my T star? How do we decide what is my T star? And this is showing us how do we pick my T star? Well, do validation. Set aside a validation set, right? Train on the training set with the training set, and then stop when validation error starts to increase. So this is my optimal like T star here, essentially. So this is like one way of getting my T star. You can look at the application of early stopping on the digits data, and you can tell this is such a good fit as compared to the overfitting issue that we were seeing earlier, right? And again, based on like these two features, which is fine. And yeah, so this is like the second technique of like addressing overfitting in neural networks. Now, with this, like this particular topic concludes our discussion of neural network. We derived them, talk about fitting the data, regularization, and overfitting, and then finally early stopping. And what we are going to address next in the last video of this lecture is the second issue, which is like how to like train my neural network efficiently that can minimize my in sample error. What can we do to like make it more efficient as compared to what we know as of now? So let's look at that in the next video.